with that being said, so this Saturday morning, I was in my second block going to MSU for one of my classes, and in fact, it was the very first week. So I think I had the first lecture like the day before, the Friday. So this was going to be my first time going into this new lecture on a Saturday. So as usual, I said, you know what, let me just go to this distribution, and then after that, I then dash off to class and, have a merry good day. Do I not get into town? Do I not wait up with my mates? We did that whole thing. I think we were just like five of us. So we were like, yeah, let's just, do the work that we normally do for the past year. Two police officers came through and said, our boss wants to see you. He just passed by, he saw what you're doing, so he just wants to talk to you. Now, fight, flight, freeze. Yeah. Have you felt all three at once? This was more of a case of, guys, what are the consequences? We could freeze, but these guys are insisting we're going to see their boss, so we can't freeze. Flight, yeah, some can run. But looking at my plus size self, and I'm like, do I want to run in town and also fall and be a spectacle? And I was like, no, I don't think I need any of that. Plus, running, as much as people think running is a sign of guilt, I will tell you two things. When you understand the ability of fight, flight, freeze, especially when it comes to a person and how they're responding to a threat, a perceived threat or stress, you would understand that most people that run, they're not guilty. It's just the natural response to the environment that's right around you. So then, fight, we said we could argue our way out of this, but then we're like, you know what? This is the police. So, best to just cooperate and see how far we go. And you know what? Before I go further, I think this is one disclaimer that I need to have. This is in no way, shape, or form going to discriminate the law enforcement. This is in no way, shape, or form said with ill intention or with the will to expose or anything like that. This is me sharing my experience as a social worker, that I'm hoping if other social workers are in my position, they would follow the same suit. And also, this is an informative way to just let people know that despite being a social worker or not a social worker, when you're put in this sort of environment or space, these are the things that you need to just keep in mind. And why is this so important? Because at the end of the day, outside of other professions, as a social worker, I am more supposed to be in tune with the law, the police, and all that stuff because we work hand in hand. But as an ordinary person who isn't into social work, it also put me in that space of vulnerability to say, oh my goodness, do I need a lawyer? Do I need this? Do I need that? But sometimes being you is the best solution you can actually have. So, with that disclaimer at hand, please understand this is informative and it's me just expressing and sharing my experience with what had happened. So, anyways, we were taken to the cop shop. We got into a room where we're told to just, sit down and wait for their boss to come through. Now, normally, what happens is when you're detained by the cops, like in cuffs, for starters, they will handcuff you. Secondly, they will make you remove your shoes, put you in a cell, and all that stuff. So, I guess on my end, I was looking at the key factors to see whether am I really, really in trouble or am I just being questioned for whatever work that I'm doing. And I remember this one lady that was with us, she had parked her car elsewhere. So she pleaded with them to say, can I at least get my car and park it closer because I don't want it clamped? So I'd rather, go and drive, bring it here, then I'll come back. The minute they let her go, in my mind, I'm like, hold on. She could have just right away. So if you can allow that to happen, then clearly it's not as serious as you might want to think it is. But can I tell you something? In that moment where Tawanda's usually the clown, the joker, and the one that doesn't take things serious, yeah, it's like a whole different person took over, and it was like, Tawanda, aside, I'm stepping in, and that's what literally happened. So one of my mates said, you could go to school. We'll stay and handle this situation. And I said, no. Even if I was to go to school, it will seem like I'm guilty for running away from this whole situation. And two, we were all told to come in as a group. So why would we disperse? It doesn't make sense. So anyways, we eventually waited. This place sounds ridiculous. Did one of us not say we needed to take a selfie to capture the moment and the day? And guess what we did? We took a selfie right here. And in my mind, I was like, we got time to take a selfie. Yeah, we are not taking the situation as serious as we're supposed to. So anyways, we get into the room. We're sitting down. So we then, we're just looking like, okay, what are we here for? What's our issue? So the boss comes in. What's the first thing that he says? Take out your IDs. So I'm like, okay, what would you need by identification? And we're now told that we have to give them our details, our names, address, or phone numbers. And in my mind, I'm like, are we being booked now? Like, what is going on? But this was a moment where I felt proud as a social worker, because when I took out my ID, I took out my social work ID. Now, this is gonna sound like I'm being controversial, but I'm just being honest. I have a problem with the fact that we have our social work IDs, but there's never a time, ever since I got to register with the council, nobody's ever asked for my social work ID. So if I walk in and say I'm a social worker, people are like, yeah, you can come in and do. And in my mind, I'm like, shouldn't it be normal for you to ask for identification? No. So that's a story for another day. I'm gonna do a whole video about that. But for now, I took out my ID and my social work ID and I handed it over. So I noticed the look, and in my mind I'm like, okay, I do not like this look. I'm not sure about this look, but anywho, I maintained my calmness and my reserved nature, of which I'm completely the opposite of reserved. Anyways, without straying. So they asked for IDs, and then he says that I'm going to detain you. You're under arrest for aiding in the, what was it? Like disturbing the peace, in aiding of the demonstrations of the things that's going on in the country right now. And believe you me, I looked at my mates looked at me, we looked at each other, and we looked at him, and we're like, huh? Then I saw his tone get a bit more aggressive and more stern. And he was like, you're taking this for granted. You guys are in big trouble. You're in serious trouble. You're aiding in the whole political unrest situation. Now, I'm just there like, me, Tawanda, who solely has issues with leaving an organization and doing this whole master's degree, I have time to deal with politics. I was like, no, this has got to be a joke. But his aggressive tone and stern look told me that no, he actually was serious. So to give you a bit of background to that as well, we did have, and I think it's still ongoing, because it's, again, I'm not really into politics as I should be, but now I'm realizing that it's very important, because at the end of the day, you could get caught up in things that have nothing to do with you. So I'm not going to mention specifics, but just to give you a bit of background, there was a whole situation where I think a week or two prior, there was a stay away where people were told not to go to work, go to whatever. And we even had our classmates get detained, like for real. He really got into remand and spent a couple of time, missed his exams, missed his second block, and shout out for him being strong throughout all that process. And I just hate it for him because he has to now redo this entire semester. But with that in mind, there was that stairway. Then I think there was another stairway that was called for in the exact same week on a Tuesday and Wednesday. But nobody did stay away. People, it was business as usual. So we then just still follow through in doing what we normally do on every Saturday. And now I'm like, okay, so this is how this guy's connecting it. So according to him, he was suspicious of the fact that we're feeding these kids to do what? For them to then do whatever hooligan, back to the stereotype of the thuggery and whatever that these kids are doing. So in my mind, I'm like, no, this isn't right. I do not condone that. At the same time, I'm also looking at my mates and I'm like, this is ridiculous. How is this a thing? Anywho, so we all then looked at each other. So I could see the panic in my friends' faces, and I think for them it was coming real. Whereas for me, I was still trying to reason with the idea that this is what you're suspecting us to do. So we started explaining our background, how this organization started, who we are, how we've got our online accounts to prove the work that we're doing. Like I said, all of those things, and we all actually attributed to how we're just kids who see a need, who see a gap, and we're doing the best that we're doing. And we actually did have a testimony of one that we rehabilitated off the streets. So I think for me, it was just that moment where, like, I got relaxed because I said, there's enough proof, there's enough evidence, we can use this to explain ourselves out of here. But then in comes the other questions. Now, for me, it was a wake up call to realize that not only was there a new PVO bill a couple of weeks prior, but this is something bigger than just us and the whole political situation. Because the next thing that we were told, and oh, by the way, USAID had withdrawn its funds as well, so let's just say there was a lot going on. So we then were asked, who's funding you guys? And we said, we do monthly payments. We are the ones that are funding ourselves. We're not getting external funding. Then we were asked if we had an office, and we're like, no, we don't even have an office. This is just a trust. We're just doing it on our, what do you call it, on our WhatsApp group. So in my mind, it put me in a place to say, oh, okay. Anyways. Fact, pause. Anyways, back again. So we then said to ourselves that, look, this is something that's developing into something more serious now, because we're asked if we had, we say someone that's funding us, if we had an office, and then the interesting question came in was, did you get clearance for this? Now, bear in mind, I've been doing it with TSK for a year, consecutively on Saturdays, and there's been clearance from the council. Prior to the year that I joined, and with how the organization has been running, there hasn't been that need to get a police clearance, which put us in a place to realize now that maybe we should have done that, because that was a blunder on our side to just get it clear with the cops in case a situation like this was to happen. So now when things got real and we realized that, okay, the clearance is a problem, and we acknowledged that, and we said this was just blatant ignorance on our part, because we've been doing it for so long, we've never needed it, so why is it a thing now? Whew. That's when the shift came to me. Mind you, I was born in the United Kingdom, raised in Zimbabwe. I think I've been to the UK 3, 4 times that I can remember, but it's been over 10, 10, 12 years. I haven't been since. So he looks at me and he's looking at my ID and he's like, "Are you British intelligence who's here to spy on us and tell people what's going on?" And I was just like, oh my god. I know things like that can be a possibility, but I'm like, you're looking at me and you're seeing me as intelligence, as a whole. I was like, nah. I get that cops can be suspicious of you. I get the aspect of an allegation and all that stuff, but in my mind, I was like, really? You know? So, anywho, he then looks at my social work ID and he's like, "Oh, you do social work. Okay, when did you graduate? When did you start practicing? And what's your main reason for doing this?" So now I'm seeing the attention focused on me. And in my mind, I was just sitting there like, oh my goodness. So the fact that I was born in the United Kingdom, he's asking if I have a red passport or not, and the aspect of whether I'm genuinely a social worker or not, I was just literally there like, I wonder, do you need to get a lawyer? Because at this point in time where this is going, I don't think you're gonna get yourself out of this one. Pretty easy. And I think what we underestimate about the cops and the law, which is something that I think as a social worker, um, it's sparked a greater interest for me to now dive into law. And I'm only doing this for the sake of knowledge and I guess to protect myself in the future. But in that moment, I actually realized that sometimes it's about what people suspect and what they put upon you. And can you prove if it's not that? Now, as much as you may think you have the proof, you've got the evidence, you've got the backup, and whatever, all it takes is for you to slip up, and that's how you get locked up. So, I think no use in crying over spilled milk and saying miscarriage of justice, blah blah blah. Nah. This is a moment where it just dawned upon me that look, as much as I'm calm and reserved right now, I'm literally panicking and shivering in my boots. And this is when I thought to myself, okay, remain calm, be direct, and do not entertain anything else. Also, do not snitch on yourself. I mean, sometimes oversharing information, despite how correct and good it is, nah, never ever do that. So that's the key aspects that I told myself. That the minute I panic and I become emotional, I've lost the plot. But still, it was a moment I felt proud as a social worker. And here's why. So the other mates of mine were put into the same room that we were in the first place, and they're having other details taken down, like their heights, their weights, like you're really getting put. Believe you me, it, yeah. So, anyways, I then stayed in the other room. Then this other guy came in. He was now asking me about my background. What do I do? Why am I interested in the children living in the streets? Why can't I do something different than just giving them food? And it now became a whole conversation about my career and the thesis that I'm going to write, the dissertation I'm going to go into, this whole picture of how am I putting the children living in the streets into the work that I'm actually doing. And this is when I realized that, okay, as much as I'm being direct about this, I've seen a keen interest. And you know what cops do? That whole good cop, bad cop. Please do watch Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, CSI, Chicago PD, all those crime dramas. Believe you me, watch it. It will help you. Because in that moment, I was asking myself, so did the bad cop that was just being aggressive with us go, and now there's this good cop who's trying to get this? So it was kind of fun in my head. Though in that moment, I was like, Tawanda, direct, give your responses. Do not seem like you're scared or anything, because you're not guilty for anything. There's nothing that you did wrong. Although it's now put me in a place to understand that even if you didn't do anything wrong, most people genuinely panic because it's about this whole idea of power and dominance. So if somebody feels like you have power over them, they're gonna be as guilty as hell, when in reality, they're not guilty at all. So, anyways, he then called someone from my university just to confirm if I'm really doing my master's. And I saw his face lit up. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, if you're going to the extent of confirming if I'm really doing my master's, you saw my social work ID. I have been truthful and saying the exact same things from the beginning about what we're doing. And I acknowledge the idea that maybe a police clearance, given the times that we were in, would have been sufficient. So in the end, I was just like, you know what? Time to call aunt at home. Just in case shit goes south. Sorry for swearing, but that's exactly how it felt at that moment. So then I was taken to the other room. Then I see my aunt come in and she's hearing me laugh with one of the cops as I'm giving my details. So here's the joke. I think this is just to lighten the moment for me right now telling you the story. And it was a lighting moment for, I guess, anyone that's in my position. So she says, your beard is heavy. And I was like, yeah, heavy. Yeah, she's looking at me, describing brown eyes, blah, blah, blah. Then she goes to the weight. Now, believe you me, as much as I want to say I know how much I weigh, I would probably forget it as soon as I know it. Because I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna do that to me. So I laugh and I say, just write heavy. And she looked at me, I looked at her, and we both started cracking, like, heavy? And then she was like, I didn't want to do that. And I'm like, look, I'm not gonna get offended. I am heavy weighted. So you can't write slim. I mean, that's totally false information. So it was a very light-hearted moment where, even with myself, I've always had bullies try to bully me about my weight, but I've always owned my weight. And I think this is why it was odd for her to say, should I write this? Should I write that? And I'm like, write heavy, you know, very heavy if you want to. So, anywho, my mom came in, she's seeing us laugh, and she's wondering, like, what? So then we're now all seated. And I noticed everybody called their significant parents, their siblings, or whatever. But unfortunately, you could tell that this was a moment where we could genuinely be locked up. And this was a Saturday, meaning we're sleeping over Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday morning, we're in court. And only thing I could think of was, I do not want a record on my name. I do not need to be fingerprinted, because it's not about keeping a clean record on my sheet. It's just about the fact that, look, if I'm gonna be guilty for something I genuinely did, yes, book me and I will own it. But for something that is suspicion, that has got nothing to do with what I did, and that is false, I'm like, hell no. I ain't gonna, nah. I was not willing to accept that. But I'll tell you two things. Now, this is a concept that I've had in my life, and I hope it also helps you. Whenever you're caught up in a situation, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And when you've identified what's the worst that could happen, accept that fate. So for me, I had accepted the fact that I could get detained, I could get locked up, and this is me being away from family, being away from school. I was willing to say, you know what, if I'm gonna go through this, there's a God given reason, and I'm definitely gonna go through it. And the minute you accept your fate, the worst that could happen, the easier it is for you to navigate all other aspects that have nothing to do with that impending doom that you're thinking of. Use this, believe you me, it will help you greatly wherever you go. And for me, that was what worked in that moment. I think for me to be calm and reserved is, I'd accepted my fate. If this is what's going to happen, cool. So how do I best navigate all other aspects that have nothing to do with this? Either it's going to lead me to that, or it's going to take me away from that. But accepting your fate and knowing what's worst that could happen, it really helped me in that moment. So I then saw the panic and fear in other people. So in my mind, as a clairvoyant and a feeler of energies and vibes, I was now slowly breaking because I could see one of the guys I was with was in tears, and this girl that I thought she was strong and holding on, she's teary eyed. This other guy seems relaxed, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, these energies are like way too much, and I can't hold or contain myself. So, Tawanda, just soldier on, be brave. You call yourself brave heart, but that was a moment where I was challenged on what it is to be brave. Oh yeah, I was. So how far did that go down to? It then went down to the fact that the guy comes back again, the boss, the aggressive one, and he says, "Give your valuables to your mom. You're gonna lock you up if you're gonna go and get your sweatpants and whatever." So in my mind, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is it. This is it." But then I'm gonna have to hold. Now I don't know if they're actually going or coming. Okay, I think they're gone now, or they're slowly going. Sounds like slowly fading off. Anyways, maybe I should buy a microphone. Yeah, that makes sense. Although my sister says you still get caught up in it. So, anyways, what then happened was, yeah. So things got real. Where you told your belongings and whatever and all that stuff. So I think in that moment I was like, fine, maybe this is the worst that it has come to. I'd already accepted it. So I was now telling my aunt like, yeah, my sweatpants are here, my hoodie is there, this is what is up. Then it just took a change of heart and he's like, you know what, I'm letting you guys go. We looked at each other. Now, remember when I said about fight, flight, freeze? Yeah. Oh my god. That was a moment where flights then worked and kicked in real bad. So we were in from like 7 in the morning up until like 10:30, and we just got our stuff. We bolted. Then I remember we were hugging each other in the cop shop, and we were like, guys, we only gotta do this when we are outside the cop shop, not inside. So, like, let's go. So, when we got out, it then took us a moment to process everything, and we then said to ourselves, wow, who knew that all of this is happening and this is what's going on? And for me, I was like, wow, this is funny. Like up until now, as much as I find moments that were funny and the whole situation, I think just me trying to make a joke out of it was my way of coping with the stress that had happened in that moment. And oh, by the way, I had sent a text to my lecturer and I said, I'm not able to come because I might get detained, so this is my situation. And she tells everybody that is a true social worker. If you're a social worker and you're not involved with the law, then you ain't doing nothing. And in my mind, I was like, does she know this experience to be saying that? Because personally, I do not want to be on the other side of the law as a social worker. Nah. I can be friends with cops, but in trying to handle a situation, not in the sense of me being a suspect. No. But she did say that any social worker that's been involved with the law is a social worker that is doing their work right. And that's, like I said, in a conclusive sort of manner, I felt very proud as a social worker because it was a moment where I realized that, look, that was my way of not only justifying the work that I was doing, that was not only my way of standing ground in the person that I am. Because if you're doing a certain profession, you're handling children in the street, and your profession's got nothing to do with that, it'll make people think you're suspicious. But because of the work that I do and the profession that I'm in, I felt proud to say, wherever I'm going, I'm taking out that ID. Even if they don't ask me, yeah, this is who I am. That's the work I do. And I am damn proud of that. You know? So, whew, that was done. I go to class the next day. That's when, telling people exactly what had happened and all that stuff. And that was quite the experience for me. Only my immediate family knew because they gotta knew. They gotta knew. They gotta know. My classmates, I would have not told them, but because it was a situation where I was like, you know what, I have to let my lecturer know because I didn't want this idea of I did not attend the lecture or I deliberately missed uni. It was just me to say, this is genuinely my situation. I could have lied and said I was in hospital, but I said to myself, no, just be truthful, integrity, one of our principles, and just lay it straight. So it took me time to also process that experience. In fact, I don't think I processed it well because as soon as that ordeal happened on a Saturday, I went into the school, into the week. So I think because of the uni pressure and the assignments and the work, and one incident I will swear upon my life. You know what? Let me just leave that hanging. I'm not gonna put that energy out. But it was quite stressful. And then you're now preparing for exams. So I actually never had time to sit back and process the idea that this happened to me. This could have been a thing. And despite my mates, we all sat down, we spoke about it, we talked about restructuring and coming up with a different angle. How do we protect ourselves? How do we put ourselves in a position where we can have a lawyer or somebody to represent us or to stand up for us? It put us in a place where we needed to reimagine, like, what are we going to do? But the fun part about that story is it wasn't about reimagining everything. I think it was just us needing to process and digest exactly what we went through. And eventually, that's when the exams came through. And now I think June. Actually, wait. Again. Yeah, but they're gone. I think they're doing rounds. Yeah, they're kind of doing rounds with this whole potato business. Part of me feels like I want to cut, part of this. But I think I'm gonna leave it. Gotta be human about things. This is life. I mean, it's a smart way of advertising potatoes. I mean, it's not like I was gonna go to the shops to get a bag of potatoes, 10 kgs, and just carry it. Nah, I don't have the energy for that. So I guess this is a good way of just saying, I'll bring the potatoes to your doorstep. So I think once that subsides as we go along, I think June now was a moment where after my exams, it was time for my body, not my mind, not my mental, not my emotions. It was time for my body to process the fact that these are the experiences that I went through. And believe you me, it was not a joke. You're in a space where there's all these positive highs, you're on national TV, you're doing all this awesome work, and there's this whole, my daily posting of May Mental Health Awareness Month and June's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And now it was time where my body said, enough about everybody else. It's time for you. This is your moment. Very soon, August, you're starting your new semester. July should be a time you should take a break as well, but if you want to get into activities, you can. But June was a moment where I said, whew, I gotta listen to my body. Because you don't leave an organization you still want to be part of. You don't get to a position where you're nearly detained, to then dealing with exams, dealing with stress, you're being humbled in many ways by this university, and you're just there like, snap. Oh, my nerves in my body were played with. And certain individuals were dangling on my eyelashes, like literally swinging on my eyelashes. And as much as that might seem annoying, that's how I felt about quite a lot of people. So I just said to myself, you know what? Let me pause. Let me stop. Let me chill. And it's been a good month. Sometimes burnout is a good way for you to reassess and reprocess things. So I looked at the positivity of that. And what I had to look at it in a positive manner was all the people that I used to talk to. Well, they had their lives. I remember I would go at least a week without anyone finding me, messaging me, or asking me for anything. And I was just like, snap, this actually feels good. Although at some point it used to annoy me as hell that this person's only looking for me because they want me to do something for them. And I'm like, isn't there a moment where somebody's gonna like check on you to see like how you're doing, like what is going on, why the silence? But no, it's Tawanda, can you help me with this? Oh, Tawanda, I've got this thing, can you also do this and that? Oh, Tawanda, do you have X amount of dollars because I need this for that? And in that moment I was just like, you know what, my body is burnt out and it's saying you need to rest. These guys feel like buzzing bees and buzzing flies or buzzing mosquitoes, and I'm like, nah, 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 I gotta block that out too. So it was a moment where I now started learning about not only about myself but of the certain individuals in my life, where I said, I might need to reassess that person. Just reassess, because there's quite a lot that I needed to cross check with myself. But at least a good thing is it then put me in a space where I then said, I'm glad to be here now. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier because I think this is like the second or third take. I did mention that when I hear people say, do you have goals? Do you have plans? Are you going to do this? I always say my life is so unpredictable. Whatever goals I set, something else comes in that's better than the goal that I set, or something that comes in that deters my path into something that I should learn. Because yet again, going back to that whole phoenix of evolving and death and resurrection, I've always embraced every oddities just to experience the fun life of saying, wow, this is not what I expected, this is something new, this is a surprise, so let me get into it. So this is why you find I was hoping that when I did that first video, I was gonna post the three parts of the first TV experience. Then I was gonna do this video without this whole experience and then post another three parts, or maybe make it one part of the second television appearance. Oh, shout out to Nelly, because on Heart and Soul TV we had a conversation about grieving in this digital era, the social media way of having funerals and stuff. So I was also going to talk about that and then post as well. But in my mind, I said, nope, I am not feeling anything. I do not want to record. I do not want to do that. I do not want to talk about that. I'm not in the space to do this. And even to do a sound off on unhealed trauma in parents, I had no energy in that because of all this that was happening. But the beauty part about this is it helped me then look into other contents that I've recorded over the years that I posted through Instagram. And I said, you know what, I can make a whole full video about this. There's some videos that you've seen so far that I've never actually posted, and it was the first time posting it. And I know July 7th, because this is what, July the 2nd that I'm recording this, and please don't judge me when I post it on a certain day that is like way after July 2nd. But July 7th, there's a video I did on how music helped me with my mental health in my life. A 12-year-old kid singing a heartbreak song like he'd been married for 10 years and he's going through a divorce. That was my mental health therapy. That was my therapist. I know K. Michelle says Jack Daniels is the only man she'll ever trust. For me, music has been the only therapy that I trust more than anything. So I'm hoping you get to enjoy that perspective of music. And I guess when this is eventually uploaded, which I know will be after the 7th, but like I said, don't judge me for the date that I actually post this. But the good thing is, I've now decided to just have fun. I always tell people have fun. I always tell people to not be strict in their plans. And I think that's the one thing I'm learning about this whole YouTube experience, the social media experience, where whatever happens on that day happens on that day. And I think the gimmick that some people think it's all about, yeah, social media can be all about your views, how many likes you've got, how many people have commented, how many people are engaging. But for me, it's never been about that. It's like I just want that space and platform to express, to share. I'm sure most of you have realized that I'm more of a writer than anything. And it's because it's a cathartic way for me to just process and release my emotions, process and release my feelings, my thoughts, my stress, my anxiety. And it's been quite an amazing journey. And now this is another form of expression, which is recording myself talking to you, doing all of this. And it's been quite an interesting experience on my part. It feels new actually, and I can't wait to start taking this seriously. Maybe doing a whole series on conversations, podcasts on Apple Music or Spotify, and even collaborating with other people. I mean, that's another thing that I'm trying to fit into my schedule of things, because I know once I start uni, and worse off, this is a clinical path. Oh, sweet Jesus, it's gonna be a lot. But I'm gonna put God and Jesus ahead of my work, because I know passing is definitely what's in store for me. But whenever there's time, I'm definitely going to make sure that not only do I collaborate with other people that are doing podcasts and talk shows and stuff, I want to try and maximize on putting all that's in me out there. If it helps a fellow social work professional, a therapist, a counselor, psychologist, an ordinary person, a working person, a teenager, a parent, I just want to genuinely put myself out there in the hopes that it makes a big difference, and being that person that I would have wanted to watch and follow, even as a child as well. And I'm sure in this video you've probably seen a whole expressive side to me compared to the very first one. Oh my goodness, the first video I was so serious, and I was like, yeah, so I'm gonna sit here, look, and just get the conversation, that maybe restrain my hands, and but now this was more of a relaxed and expressive way, which I'm very proud of. So, you experience is the best teacher. Your past you is the only person you're supposed to compare with and be in competition with. And like my cousin's analogy of life, a bow and arrow. You think you're being drawn backwards, but you're being propelled further. And I think that's the thing about life that I feel we take for granted, is all of these quotes and lessons that we're learning from other people. It only becomes real and deep when it's now applied to your life, when you're now walking in the reality of those quotes. And this is why you find on my part, oh my God, I love life. I love it. The good, the bad, the ups, the downs, the burnouts, and the fun times. Oh, I love life. And mind you, it also put me in a space to catch up on a lot of Netflix, which I never had time for. But gaming, oh my goodness, you cannot take me away from gaming. Even if it was in a serious meeting, I would be gaming. I think gaming has been a good expression of my frustrations and stress, and I think it's something that I'll carry with even in my adult years. So always find something that's good as an outlet for you. And believe you me, when there comes a time where you need to just switch off and take a break, please do. I've actually going to challenge myself, and I'm glad this is a recording, a video I can play back in the future. I'm actually wanting to challenge myself to be in a space where I can delete a social media app without checking for updates, notifications, etc. Because most of the gaming community is on social media. So, in as much as I streamline my timeline and feed towards the gaming, you always see other aspects and other news where I'm like, gosh, this is unnecessary. I didn't need to know this. Oh gosh, I didn't need to be exposed to this, but I've seen it. Now I know it. So now I'm in a place where this month has been really good. I apologize genuinely to those that I have been very off with, and mostly to those that didn't know my story, because I know there's people genuinely looking out for me, but I just was not, my medulla oblongata was not in a position to process and to tell people and to get questions. Nah, I was not in that space. But the good thing is, I was able to deal with that in the month of June. And in the last few months, towards my 29th chapter, I can't wait to see how I'm going to relook over my entire 28th chapter and say, from November last year to October this year, what happened with my life, you know? But I look forward to a greater end of 2025, and I see a lot of great things happening for myself. And I'm hoping it's the same thing on your end. You get to have great experiences, great connections, great networking experiences. And the only key to life is to just elevate, be better, and learn from yourself. Because at the end of the day, don't waste your time on somebody. Not in a negative way. Yes, find partners, friends, and do all these things. It's amazing. But don't waste your time on somebody who doesn't have your best interests the same way you have with yourself. And I know that's gonna be like a huge bar set up high for you and other people, but like I said, you are only the only person you're comparing yourself with. Don't compare yourself to other people around you, because believe you me, you will be highly disappointed. And expectations, oh, I had to learn that in my month of burnout, where I had to cut a whole lot of expectations from a whole lot of people. Sometimes you're hating on a person because your expectations of them is a lot more higher than what it's supposed to be. So, with that being said, this is me, Tawanda Lyoga, your trauma informed mental health social worker. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I really appreciate the number of views that my account has had so far, and I think I'm well above 200 overall, which I'm very proud of and happy, because I've never been one to say, oh, I posted a video, it's got 1,000 views. Nah, I'm not yet there. I will get there, but I'm just enjoying the authenticity of having to do this whole process. It's just my Galaxy Ultra 24, myself, and my voice and my craziness. That's, propelling all these things. And believe you me, it took a lot for me to get here. So I can't wait to do another video soon. And it's now not even just me planning on what to do next. I'm not going to even tell you what I'm going to post after this, or what's going to be the next sort of target in what I'm posting. Just subscribe. You will see a notification, you will see new videos up, and just watch it and appreciate it. But with that being said, I send my deepest and warm hug, just like the sun is scorching my face right now. Positive energy, vibes, and all my love and care to you, your loved ones, your family, your partner, your friends, and above all, you. This is yet again Tawanda Lyoga, your future clinical social worker. Now, I think that is something that should have a ring to it right now. A future licensed clinical social worker. And if you really want to pursue this journey in your master's in social work, please do. It's amazing. It is humbling, and it will really open your mind and eyes to greater aspects of life, which I'm proud to be where I am today as a social worker that I am. So, with that in mind, I appreciate you. Mwah. Love you. And just enjoy life, man. Have fun.